I'm home a lot earlier than I had expected to be. My trip to Arizona was supposed to be until the 15th of this month. I was home Thursday. I left Tuesday. I spent most of the night Wednesday at the airport, trying to sleep through the night, but I couldn't, so I let Tavin sleep through the night. And through the night, I had many wonderful people, visitations from God, speak life and hope into me after what had happened to me. I won't get into the depth of the details of what had happened between my father and I, but it led me to this question: are we ruining our children? And the answer is a resounding yes. Absolutely, we are ruining our children. Now that may go against the grain, and that may hurt you, and that may be like, whoa, I'm not listening to this. But the reality is we need to listen to that. We need to hear the truth. We can't be coddled anymore. We can't live in this place where we make excuses for our behaviors and we just let them roll off our shoulders, because that's what I've been allowing my father to do for far too long. What happened between my father and I was quite traumatic, and unfortunately, Tavin saw it. Tavin is an 8-year-old little boy who has never seen anyone speak to his mother the way that my father did when we were there. So it confused him. It hurt him. It angered him. I had never seen anger like this in Tavin before. Oh, I've seen him get angry over video games and silly things when he can't get his way, but this was different. This was an anger that stemmed from watching someone do something to someone he loves, and he couldn't stop it. When I saw this, it brought me back to my own childhood. It reminded me of when my father treated me like that when I was his age. When my father scared me. When I was 5 years old, my father left me. My story about my father is not unique by any means, because there are millions of adults and children today who are going through very similar situations. So to say that this is just me and I'm the only one who feels this pain is not real. It is a fact that when our parents separate and divorce and leave, it is traumatic. Those scars don't go away so easily. And most adults are living with that deep down inside of them. And that little scared child comes out every now and then. And it comes out in anger, and it comes out in name calling or snapping or frustration in a grocery store. There's roots to all the things that we are and all the things that we do. They are deep down in the ground. And those roots bloom into a tree. And by that tree, there are stems that connect. And our choices are those stems. We may see a dead stem from a choice that we didn't make that was probably the good choice, and it bears no fruit. And then we can see a wide stem that has many stems on them, and that's the bad choice that we make, and it just has different effects all over the place. See, everything that we do affects someone around us, if not everyone. So when I say, are we ruining our children? And I tell you, absolutely we are. We are. We carry this burden of our parents on us. It's so easy today to blame everyone else for our problems, but it's harder to take responsibility for ourselves, for our own actions, for what we've done. I was 5 years old when my father left me, as I said. And almost immediately, my father started taking me to his new girlfriend's house with my half-sister. I was only 5. I had no clue what was going on. None. I just know I was taken far away because he lived about 30, 40 miles away from where I lived. And it was a long drive for a 5-year-old. And then all of a sudden I'm brought into this house with some other woman, with my father, and a little girl who was only a year younger than me. And my dad's telling me, this is your new mom and this is your sister. You're scared. You're confused. You're shocked. It can't be. And immediately you want your mother back. And that's how I felt. I felt like a stranger in this place. And quite frankly, as I was recalling the story to Jared, I said, I don't even remember my father being a part of my life until he left my mother. So when I cried for my mother, my father would pull my lip and tell me if I cried, he would cut my lip off. Father has always been verbally abusive and angry and mean. Not just to me, but to everyone around him. It's who he is. And when I saw this on Tuesday, well, rather on Wednesday, what my father did to me, I walked out of the room, I went outside, and I told Tevin to come with me. I went into the house to get our swimming suits because I thought I am going to just cool off. Tevin and I are just going to go spend the rest of the evening or the day at the swimming pool. But when I went inside, my father continued to berate me, to belittle me, and called me swear words and vicious names in front of Tevin. At that point, Tevin was beyond angry, and rightfully so. No one should ever talk to his parents that way. No one should ever talk to his mother that way. And no one should ever talk to a woman that way. And no one should talk to anyone that way. But that's what Tevin saw. And when we went to the pool and I began to see Tevin's anger start to manifest, I was holding my breath, trying not to cry. I could barely hold my breath underwater because the tears were just burning inside of my chest, aching to be released, and I couldn't. I didn't want Tevin to see that. But when I saw Tevin's reaction, that's when I knew. That's when it all hit me. I felt like Tevin. I felt like that scared child all over again. And I haven't felt that way for a really long time because I've been pushing it down and pushing it down. And over the span of my life of almost 50 years now, my father has always treated me this way. So people that saw me in his community at his mobile home park, when they saw that I was upset and my dad was playing it off that he didn't know why I was so upset, he was so confused, they proceeded to tell me, don't forget, your father was wounded in the war. My father never saw a day of battle in his life. But this is what he's convinced the community of. Well, then it was the stroke. No, my father was like this when I was a child. It's PTSD. No, my father was a supply clerk in Vietnam, never saw any fighting, and in fact, ended up meeting a Vietnamese woman, got her pregnant, and went AWOL in the army. The lies that my father has created. He creates a completely different person for these people. And I realized just how sad that was. And no longer did I feel angry at my father, but I felt sorry for him, that he had to keep up this persona, that he had to live this lie day in and day out. And I was just a reminder that I know way too much. So let's go back to this idea of, are we ruining our children? Yes, we are. And I'll tell you how I know. Because I was ruining Tevin. Because I have ruined Josh, my oldest son. My oldest son won't have anything to do with me. And rightfully so. Because I've been a mess for 49 long years. For far, far too long. I have been a mess, and I couldn't understand why I was a mess. I didn't even understand why I was the way that I am until I watched my father speak to me the way he did and watched Tevin's reaction to it. Only then did the pieces start to come together, and I realized who I am and what I am and what I have done to my children. I don't think I can ever make it right with Josh. He's made his choice to be completely out of my life. Today is his birthday. Today he's 33 years old. I want to love him. I want to cherish him. I want to be with him. I want him to love me, but I can't force him to do something he doesn't want to do. I just have to face the reality that my past has created a mess for my son. And this was happening with Tevin too. So many things have happened over the past year that have created so much anger and confusion and frustration within my life and within my family. But I've never had the opportunity to heal because it's been one thing on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. I can't seem to catch a break. Oh, good. Those are really good excuses, even though they're true. They're excuses. I came to realize that I yell at Tevin a lot. That in my anger, I actually pound the table when I'm so mad at him and I want to hit him, but I know I can't. I pound my fist on something just to get that anger out. And he sees it. And while I don't hit him, he must know instinctively that the fist was meant for him. You know why I know? Because I see the anger and the hurt and the fear in his eyes. I see his reaction to it. But I couldn't stop. No matter how many times I went to bed every night and promised myself, tomorrow's going to be different. Tomorrow I'm not going to yell at him. Tomorrow things are going to be different. I want to be a better mother. I want to be a better person. I want to be better. Oh God, help me to be better. My trip was supposed to be a 13-day long trip. It turned out to be 1.5 days. But it was 1.5 days of a valuable lesson that I will never ever forget. While it ended ugly, and it has ended for good, I came home a different person. Well, last year, when my father had a stroke, we had gotten into a huge argument before this. So it was really, really ugly. He was going around and talking about me behind my back and telling everyone how afraid he was for Tevin's life because I was homeschooling him and he felt he wasn't being socialized enough. And in doing so, I was beyond angry. My father has been verbally abusive to me my entire life. He has said and done things that have pushed me over the edge. But this time, I said enough was enough. And that was it. And I told my dad. Jared was so upset that he called my father and started telling my dad off. And I grabbed the phone from him and I said, "You do not have a daughter anymore in me. I am dead to you. Don't ever mention my name to anyone ever again." And I hung up. Well, then he had another stroke and I wasn't quite sure whether he was going to make it or not. So I flew there to Arizona for 4 days so that I could see him in the hospital. The last day I was there, we talked about why we weren't talking. And he said, I miss talking with you. And I said, I miss talking with you too. But I can't keep going on like this, Dad. You can't keep treating me like this. And he said, I won't. And I said, no, Dad, you can't just say I won't. You have to promise me that you will not do this to me anymore, or I am going to have to leave and let this go and let you go. And my dad said, I promise. So when we were there last week and he broke his promise, I reminded him of the promise that he made and that I told him I would be leaving and I would not put up with it anymore. He said, okay. Not once did my father apologize to me for what he said and for what he did. Not once. Not once did he care to think of how he had hurt me. In fact, he just kept doing it. So it made me think about me and how I've been treating Tavin over the past few years, especially this last year. With all that has been going on with my ex-landlord situation, with losing two of my brother-in-laws, having to move out of a house that we loved, and moving into a place we didn't feel comfortable in, and my father having a stroke, and me being accused of killing my brother-in-law, and Jared's whole family just coming against us. And then not being invited to my son's wedding and him deciding that he no longer wanted anything to do with me. I was a wreck. I've been a wreck. And I took it out on the people that are closest to me. I've been snapping. I've been yelling. I've been angry at everything. Everything. Tavin can't do anything without me being angry about it. He's just a little boy. And quite frankly, the irony of all of this is that before I left, Tavin and I had a little tiff, and he did something stupid. And I said, stop acting like a child. Yes, I did say that. Yes, I said it. Stop acting like a child. Stop acting your age. What am I expecting from him? He's 8. I've never let him be a child because I'm always expecting something better from him. That is what my parents have put on me my entire life. I've never been good enough. I've never done anything right. And this comes from my mother as well. So I had two parents who never thought anything of me, who always put me down, who always told me I was worthless, who always treated me as worthless, who never felt I was worthy of their love. And now I'm inflicting it on Tavin and expecting him to be something different and something better, something that I couldn't be. And I knew right then and there that all of these anxiety issues, all of these sensitivity issues, all of his nervousness comes from me. He gets it from me because I give off a vibe of this anxiety and always high strung and, always needing everything to be perfect and just right. That was the day that I was going to break the curse on my family. That Tavin was not going to grow up like Josh, and Tavin was not going to grow up and blame me for everything, because that's what kids do. I am sitting here blaming my parents. However, it was my choice to be what I am. I chose to get angry. I chose to find the little things about Tavin so irritating and frustrating, and it's just normal everyday kid things. Him being a kid annoys me. Me being a kid annoyed my father. My fears angered him. My pain pushed him over the edge. My confusion caused conflict. I could never win. Just being me, my parents hated me. That's an understatement. They hate me. And my father even said so before I left. He said, I knew this was going to happen because you are who you are, and you're never going to change. I am who I am, but I am going to change. I have to, because I saw the look and the fear and the anger in my son's eyes. And I realized things had to change within me. Not with Tavin, but with me. Tavin's just a child who's learning life, who's learning how to be in this world and find a place for himself. Tavin is just learning how to be a person. And he's learning how to think and to feel and how to react to the world around him. I'm not giving him a very good example. I am ruining him. I have ruined him. However, now I have damage control, and I will do whatever it takes to fix what I have created. It's not going to be easy. It's not an overnight thing. I can't just magically change and, pretend like my life wasn't what it was. But I can start being very aware of when I start feeling annoyed and irritated and anger. And that doesn't mean I push it down. It just means that I deal with it differently. I don't repress those feelings. I don't stuff them down and say, you can't feel this way. And I'm telling Tavin the same thing. I'm not telling you you won't get angry. You will. And it's okay, because the Bible tells us that we can be angry. It's what we do in our anger that is the sin. And in my anger, I am constantly hurting people. Whether it's Tavin or Jared or my friends or my family or strangers in a store, it's time I let that anger go and realize I am my dad. I am my mother. But I don't have to be. I have a choice. I can choose to be different. I can choose to react differently. I can choose how I respond to life around me. I can choose to be light or dark. I can choose to be angry or happy. I can choose how I live. And by doing so, I can make a difference in Tavin's life now. Because I can't change Josh. He's made his mind up already about me. I'm done. He has cut me out. I am done. I am not his family. I am not his mother. He does not want me. And as much as that hurts, and as deep as that cuts, I created that. He is what I made him to be. I ruined him. I did. Now, I thought I was a good mother to Josh, and I was. I was a very good mom to Josh. I am not going to lie. But I had issues that he saw. I had a life that was not real positive for him. I was not a good example, but I was a good mom. But the reality is that those things, being a good mom, doesn't mean that the things that your children are seeing in you will not have an effect on them when they grow up. It's being an example. It's not just being a good mom, it's being an example. It's not do as I say, not as I do. Please. Because that's what I'm expecting Tavin to do. I'm expecting Tavin not to be like me, but yet I'm still being me. I can't expect Tavin to be something different if I am not different. I have the opportunity to break this and to really give Tavin hope for his future. I have an opportunity to possibly have a lifelong relationship with him where I don't have one with Josh. I have an opportunity to make things right, whether people accept it or not. What matters is that I choose to be different now and that I won't make the same mistakes again. Whether someone wants to move on with me or not is entirely up to them, and I can't make them change their mind. And quite frankly, I don't want to. Because whatever I've done in the past to hurt them, they are right in how they feel. They have that right to feel that way towards me and to say, I'm not going back. Because that's what I'm doing with my father. I'm not going back. I have said enough is enough. I have been going through this almost every year for 49 years of my life. Well, 44. If we take away the first 5, I can't remember. But only I can make this decision and only I can move forward. My dad chooses not to. That's unfortunate. I remember when I was in my 20s, my mom was so mean to me. She was always mean to me. She never really liked me. And it was probably because I was weak. I was a weak person. I'm sensitive. I'm very in touch with my feelings. And she hated that about me. She was a very tough woman. She very rarely cried. She very rarely showed her emotion of love or affection or attention or compassion or mercy or grace. It was all real hard lined. And I remember telling her that what she was doing was hurting me, and I wish she would just change. I wish she would stop treating me like that. And she said, I'm 50 years old. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, I believe is the phrase she used. I am who I am, and you either accept me or you don't. That was tough for me. Because she said she was never going to change for anyone. And it was at that moment that I realized my mother was always going to be this way. And I was going to just have to live with her abuse and her hatred and her talking about me behind my back and saying terrible, awful things that are untrue about me. And all the things that she did with Josh to make him hate me today too. I had to live with that. And towards the end, my mom gave her life to Christ. And it didn't change her to be more affectionate and loving and kind to me. It did in a way, but not in the way I had always wanted. All of that mattered to me was that she knew Jesus and that she would stand before Christ and be clean, white as snow. And we did have a better relationship. And she was still, herself. She was still mean in her own weird ways, and she still didn't like me very much. But I learned to accept that. I learned to accept her as who she is. I knew she loved me in her own weird way. I knew she loved me. My father, on the other hand, I don't feel that. I don't feel like my father loves me. I feel sometimes like he just feels obligated to me. I feel like he's always felt that way to me my entire life. I've always felt that. My father never really loved me, he just felt obligated to me. I've lived with that my whole life. I've felt unworthy. I have felt unlovable, unloved, lesser than. And in the process, I have become angry, resentful, jealous, bitter, mean. I'm not a good mom. But the truth is if I'm not setting a good example, if I'm not being the person I want Tavin to be, then I'm not a good mom, and I am ruining him. So as a family today, we have come together in our time with God, and we have prayed about the situation. and ask the Lord to help us through this and to help us be better people, not just individually, but as a family, but also to be a light in the world. Yes, we are ruining our children. I know you don't want to hear that. I didn't want to admit it. But we can change it. You can change it. You can start by being very aware of who you are and what you're doing and why you do them. You can start by saying, I'm done. I have to start looking inward and seeing who I am and what am I doing? Why am I doing these things? You have to then look in the eyes of your children. I mean, really look. Look hard. Take a long look in their eyes when they're not watching. And you will see innocence and goodness that is just waiting to be pulled out of them. You have to allow your children to grow and be who they are, who God created them to be. But God gave you a special gift. He picked this child for you and for you only, so that you could do good things for this child. He trusted you, of all people, with this special life that may seem complicated and annoying and a little inconvenient sometimes. But it can also be great and wonderful and beautiful. But it can only be those things if that's what you feel and project. Not just towards your children, but to everyone in life. To life around you. If you're being one thing to your child and something else out in the world, what do you think they're seeing? It's time we stopped ruining our children. And we stopped ruining ourselves. Once we stop ruining ourselves,